Greetings, distinguished followers, chosen chimp here. I hope you are all doing well on this day of days. This time around, I am reviewing an important piece of Doctor Who expanded material that is very much after my own heart. It is this, Cybermen, the Ultimate Guide, a bookazine from the people behind Doctor Who magazine. It is extremely appropriate for my channel as it is a book about Cybermen, and I frequently talk about Cybermen, meaning this is extremely tax deductible. So just to let you know, I do have an unboxing video which is exclusive to my TikTok channel, so you can go over on TikTok and watch me, or more specifically my hand, taking a thing out of a box, and that entire operation subsequently thwarted by the appearance of a cat. So yeah, you can go over to TikTok and watch all 40 seconds of that. So here's the format. Okay, it's nice and shiny, which means you can see my camera and other things reflected off it. You might be familiar with this format. Actually, I also have this created in the similar design from the people at Doctor Who magazine. So this is 60 Moments in Time, which I've had for a couple of years now. Lovely book as well, absolutely brilliant, given to me by my wife as a gift. And so in terms of user functionality, you've got lovely cover, front and back, beautiful designs, renditions. So it's got a sleeve, and you take the book out the sleeve, which is great because look inside, you've got, try and angle it from the reflection there, images, little hexagons of various Cybermen, various forms, front and back there. So the inside of it is different from the outside. User functionality is very neat and tight. Sometimes I think it's a little too tight. When I put it back in, I struggle slightly, and it's all good. It looks good in your protection. This is basically a protective sleeve. What I meant to say there was it looks good in your collection, not your protection, although this will be in my protection because this book is already very precious to me indeed. And yeah, sometimes I put it back in and, you know, I'm worried about ripping it slightly, but that is my only complaint on the user functionality of that. So this book was edited by Marcus Hearn, who is heavily involved in Doctor Who magazine, and it has a, let me make sure I get this right now, it has a contributing editor in the form of Alan Barnes. Alan Barnes, of course, being a long-term writer for Doctor Who in the 90s. He wrote the Cybermen Origins comic, which is one of my favourite things to waffle on about on my channel. So he's a contributing editor, and you've also got CG illustrations from Gav Rymel and Anthony Lamb. CG renditions of Cybermen. I'll just turn to a random one there. You've got the Cyber Neomorph, Cyber Leader there. You can tell he's the leader because he's got black handles. So beautiful renditions, also almost photogenic. In fact, hard to believe that those are even CG. They are so well crafted, and there is even a rendition of the Cyber Controller, I think he is, in Attack of the Cybermen, with the big bulbous head, and Gav Rymel and Anthony Lamb even do a good job of making that design look cool. So this book is basically, at its core, at its baseline core, it's basically a run through of all the Cybermen TV stories from the 10th planet back in 1966, all the way through to the Cybermen's most recent appearance in The Power of the Doctor back in 2022. The Cybermen, of course, neglected to make any kind of appearance in the Ncuti Gatwa era, and I don't hold that against them because it's not their fault. And this is despite the fact that the planet Telos was referenced a couple of times in the Ncuti Gatwa era, references which of course culminated in absolutely nothing whatsoever yet. So the book does a run through of everything TV wise from the Power of the Doctor, from the 10th planet all the way through to the Power of the Doctor, and along the way it has a host of other things. The garnish on this book is a assortment, a sprawl, a plethora of interviews, references to pretty much everything you can imagine Cybermen wise in official expanded media, Big Finish audios, books, comics, animations, toys, collectibles, obscure trivia, facts, appearances from the Cybermen in TV outside of Doctor Who for videos, TV shows, humorous and otherwise, and pretty much everything that you could possibly imagine. This book represents a collaboration of several writers, not just the ones I mentioned that are credited right at the start of the book. Every person who makes a contribution to this bookazine is credited and referenced at some point during their own articles, and a lot of them I figure are long-running contributors to Doctor Who magazine, I think. But this book it kind of represents a meeting of the minds of several people, lots and lots of different people writing different things objectively, but from their own personal perspective, with their own personal thoughts. So it's not just the brainchild of one specific person you have here. It is a collaboration. It is a collective celebration which has been put together through many different people writing about many different aspects. It presents an opportunity to a lot of different people, to some learned experts in Doctor Who Cybermen history, be they people who have written in Doctor Who magazine or people who have dabbled in writing stories. It ends but also culminates, from my perspective, I think culminates is a good word for it, in this. The cyberography. Okay, this is several pages long. All right, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long. A timeline of everything Cybermen from the 10th planet all the way to the most recent Big Finish releases. The cyberography, of course, mainly concerns fictional presentations of Cybermen stories, although it does reference other reference material along the way, and I will get to that in a second. But the cyberography at the end is mainly an A to B, start to finish point, whereby if for some insane reason you decide you want to do every single Cybermen story, okay, but TV story, comic, audio alone, novel, animation, all the rest, from the very first all the way to the very last, then you've got the cyberography to do it in a linear fashion without missing anything, really. And that's how the book closes down. This is a complete treasure trove. This is an absolutely awesome piece of work, and I cannot give enough respect to the people who put this together. I love this book so much. Full disclosure, I haven't read every single page of this. It's massive, and there is, that's almost kind of not the point of it, I don't think. Obviously, you can read it from A to B, but the whole point is to kind of jump in and out at various stages, to soak in various things, to kind of put it down and go back to it, to maybe discover something Cybermen related, and then look it up in this book to find out more about it. And this is an absolutely wonderful piece of material. I love this so much. It is ultimate by name and ultimate by nature. A couple of criticisms. First of all, I think it would have been handy to have some kind of index in the back of this book. I mean, I don't know if that betrays the whole bookazine format that these are presented in, but I just think it would have been a bit more useful than the contents page at the beginning, where some of the titles are fairly abstract. I mean, for example, if I wanted to learn about the real-time animations in 2002, if I suddenly discovered that they were a thing and I wanted to look them up in this book, I would kind of have to just thumb through all the pages and hope I got lucky and my eyes landed on it. Whereas if there was some kind of index at the back, then I could just go A to B until I found real time and found the exact pages that they were all referenced in. So as a reference material, as something that you want to do a bit of research on, then this is the book for you. And I think that they would have solidified that concept a little bit more if it did have some kind of index at the end. The beginning as well, the writing is very fluid and very easy to digest. It is very magazine stylized, so any part of this you can just jump in and get a handle on what the particular writer is talking about. However, I thought the introduction to this book not the main introduction by the editor, but the kind of follow-up introduction after that, which has a brief slimline history of Cybermen from beginning to end, I thought there was a certain level of pessimism within that kind of writing. It was a lot about the kind of negative aspects of how certain elements of Cybermen creation in production were deemed as a little bit silly. Like, for example, you've got a reference to the woman playing Polly thinking that the original Mondasian Cybermen designs looked a little bit daft, and you've got a reference to the Cybermen feuding with the Daleks in Russell T Davies Series 2 finale, when it says how the Cybermen were always bridesmaid. And there seems to be just a little bit more negativity in the coverage than there is positive. I mean, what they're saying is true, and it's factual, and it's objectively true, but as a starting point for the book, I would like to have something that was a little bit more of a flight of fancy, I guess, for me personally. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that gazes at those designs and at those aesthetics of the old school black and white, and just gets completely lost in them, you know. I remember watching Tomb of the Cybermen as a child on VHS, and in particular the bit where the cyber controller is all weak and sluggish, and then he gets into his revitalization pod and he is so strong that he manages to burst and bash his way out, and then he is very fast and very hyperactive, and I could just really feel the concept of this machine being drained of batteries but then being fully charged. And that is the impact, that is the almost magical, if you like, impact that those TV stories had on the viewers at the time as children, and I suppose as adults as well. And you know, that is why Cybermen have become a cultural phenomenon. That is why Cybermen have existed in the hearts and the minds of viewers for so long. It's not because the actress who played Polly thought the design was silly, and so I just think it could have focused on that and just been a bit more of a celebration rather than a kind of deadpan delivery over some of the bad things. That is purely my subjective opinion. That's not to say that the writing at the beginning of that book is wrong in any way, and I'm certainly not going to dunk on the person who wrote it, but for me it was just like, yeah, we know some of it is a little bit silly, okay, but that's kind of not what we're in it for. So I guess that is kind of my only complaint on the writing of the introduction. However, there is a segment in those very pages at the beginning which I also do really like, because it talks about how particularly in the original incarnations of the Cybermen in the 60s, there was no real consideration towards the idea of women being converted, and if you are a woman who is converted into a Cyberman, are you then still referred to as a Cyberman? And it kind of closes, you know, and then it goes into more recent incarnations of the lady who ran Torchwood being converted into a Cyberman, of the woman in Torchwood who was specifically a cyber woman and who was clad, as is written in this passage, in a flesh-bearing metal bikini. And at the end of this passage it says, "In the real world, of course, the Prozac answer to all this is that the silver giants with the strength of 10 men are a creation of the 1960s, when Cybermen were men and Cyberwomen were not something anyone had really bothered thinking about, to be honest." And that kind of deadpan delivery is just on the nose, because it is true. A lot of the writing in this book is absolutely gorgeous. Alright, I'm going to read just a little bit now. This is one of my favourite sections, okay, so this is the Missing in Action section that is written by Alan Barnes. Okay, I love Alan Barnes' work as a contributing writer to Cybermen lore over the years. Some of his stuff is absolutely crazy and among my favourite things. And he's talking about how the Cybermen lingered in various forms between their gap in the invasion and revenge of the Cybermen, be it small clips and references in other stories such as the War Games and the Mind of Evil and the Carnival of Monsters and all the rest, and Radio Times photo shoots with John Pertwee. And it also postulates a alternate timeline where in the Tom Baker story Invasion of Time, which was Leela's last story, I think, where instead of the Centaurans revealing themselves to be the big bad at the end, it was the Cybermen instead, which is what Louise Jameson, the actress who played Leela, would have loved. She would have loved to go up against the Cybermen, and she never got that opportunity. And you got this bit of writing. I assume it's Alan Barnes that wrote this. All right, so listen to this. This is what could have been, but never was. And you're only going to read this in this book, I think. The doctor stopped at a junction, flattening himself against the wall. Look out, a Cyberman. Leela heard the clumping of heavy-booted feet as one of the silver giants appeared at the other end of the corridor. Don't worry, Doctor, she said, drawing back her outsider's bow. I shall kill this metal man. She let the gold-tipped arrow fly. Distinguished followers, we occupy one of the cold, boring manifolds of the universe where we never got to see Leela shooting a gold-tipped arrow at a Cyberman. I can't tell you how sad that makes me. So yeah, some of the writing in this is gorgeous. Some of my other favourite moments in this include Full Metal Jackets, where it talks about the artwork, the brilliant artwork for the original Target novel covers, which were aesthetically incorrect because they had the wrong Cybermen, but they were also beautiful to look at. And a big piece about the real-time animation as well, which I just find fascinating. This book frames the real-time animation as one of the goriest and most violent references to Cybermen in history. So there is all of that and more, okay? This book right here, this David Banks book from 1988, which I've waffled on extensively in my videos. I have dubbed this as the book of 1,000 YouTube videos. It is the book that keeps on giving for source material for my videos. And by that definition, by that ridiculous hyperbolized inflation of numbers, I'm probably going to have to call this the book of 1,000,000 YouTube videos. And yes, it even references, all right, it's even got an entire section 4 pages long dedicated to the David Banks book. There it is, and there's an interview with David Banks. It even talks about the other brilliant Cyberman book in this book as well. There's a whole section on that, and it basically talks about the creation and the production and the idea of what David Banks wanted to put behind it, his philosophy, and it talks about, of course, the David Banks timeline. And on that note, I just want to say that this book doesn't act as a replacement for this. Both of these books, just own them both, basically. So this one, obviously the thing that makes this one special is the fact that it has an exclusive, uniquely created, hypothesized history of the cyber race in the form of what I personally dub the David Banks timeline. That's not officially what it's called, really. It's just what I like to call it. And that is a fictional account of how the Cybermen got started through to their finish, all the way through the classics, in the version from the Cybermen's perspective, as seen from the eyes of this otherworldly, almost celestial being called Archive. And so that is unique to this book. And it also goes into a great deal more detail about the Kit Pedler philosophy of the conception of Cybermen and how he wanted to create Cybermen, what they represented, some of his influences in the real world, in artificial intelligence, in medical surgery, and in fiction and philosophy. The new book goes into that somewhat, and it covers it over in a neatly packaged fashion. This goes on about it for pages and pages and pages, and goes right through into references in mythology, in Greek mythology, in, you know, old school science fiction, classic science fiction, modern science fiction in terms of the 80s when this book was built. This goes right into the nitty gritty. You couldn't ask for more detail on Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis's conception in this book, and it contains a lot of information and a lot of ideas and a lot of reference to other science fiction that that particular book doesn't. So own them both, basically. And on the subject to that, so this book has pretty much everything, okay? This book has pretty much everything that you could imagine there is in Cybermen lore. But the one thing I noticed that this doesn't include, and I'm not entirely sure why, is there is no mention to my knowledge that I have seen of the archive tapes, the hypothesized history of the cyber race. Now, the archive tapes was basically the audio version of the Cybermen book, which, you know, could go some way to explaining why they don't have it, because they've already got the Cybermen book in there. But it is a beast unto itself. It is a product unto itself, the archive tapes. The presentation of the voice, the style in which it is edited, that super cool, amazingly creepy synth music that is presented throughout it. I love the archive tapes. You can listen to it pretty much everywhere. You can just listen to it on Spotify. It's absolutely fantastic. And because that book was published kind of on the cusp of when Silver Nemesis was released, that book doesn't really have any reference to Silver Nemesis, and it doesn't mention it in the David Banks timeline, but the archive tapes continues to include the Silver Nemesis, the Sylvester McCoy story, because the other book didn't. So, and that is something that is completely missed out, and I don't know why, whether it's a copyright thing, a license thing, whether the archive tapes isn't considered an official or even a semi-official Doctor Who product, but it's just not in there. It's not in the cyberography at the end, and I don't know why that was left out, because to me that is an essential component. That's what really got me started on my journey on this channel before I got into the book, was the archive tapes, which is just a widely known piece of Doctor Who expanded media, and is absolutely bloody brilliant. It's not in the book, and I don't know why. So yeah, and that aside, assuming that that is the only thing that is excluded from that book, I'm just going to end on my review here by saying that this book now, as a reference piece of material, it's too easy. Alright, it's too easy for me now. I've got everything that I need for this channel under one roof, in one book, in one easy to digest compendium. So if I am suddenly talking about a recent piece of Mondas related material that I never knew existed, or if I am talking about a crossover between Doctor Who and another lucrative science fiction franchise, if I decide that I'm going to look at that video and make it so, then you might watch it and go, oh yeah, that's all good and well, Chosen Chimp, but all you've done is just looked at that book. And I'm like, yeah, that is all I did, because it's too easy, alright? So, I mean, obviously, as a dedicated researcher to all Cybermen things, I will still be looking on the internet to other resource materials, but it's such a great handy piece of material for looking at other books, other things. Sorry, I cut away there just so I could put him gently back in his sleeve. I love it. This thing is absolutely brilliant. It's a masterpiece, okay? Own it if you have any liking of Doctor Who. Okay, if you have Series 15 fatigue, if you want to remind yourself why Doctor Who is awesome, get this book, beautifully formatted. I adore it to bits. I'm very tempted to get the Daleks Ultimate Guide now, actually, and learn a lot about Daleks I didn't know. Brilliant stuff. Well done, Doctor Who magazine, for that. And that is my review of Cybermen, the Ultimate Guide. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to stick around for a couple more minutes just to talk about the future of my channel. So anybody who is wondering where my head is at after the recent Series 15, if I can ask you just to stick around for a couple of minutes and I will tell you. Basically, it's looking good, okay? I'm really excited about where I'm going in this channel, okay? So the most recent series of Doctor Who is over. It's done with. We've talked about it. I'm not going to go into it in any kind of detail again. I'm done and dusted in that regard, and we are pretty much halfway into the year, which prompts me to review a statement I put on my community tab at the start of the year, where I talked about how I was going to put more time into creating long form, passionate pieces of content which were quite complex and quite detailed, and the caveat of course meant that I might be gone for a few months at a time, but when I do bring out a video it would be perfect and beneficial highly to this channel in the long run. And I just proceeded to not do that. I did the opposite, okay? By the end of February, I was putting out videos weekly of various weekly rambles talking about comics and audios and reviewing things and obscure Doctor Who episodes. And it was because I just didn't want to be a stranger to my own channel. What can I say? I changed my mind, so I made a video every Sunday, weekly, consistently, leading up to the Series 15 reviews and right through Series 15, taking a small gap and saying hello now, and here I am. Now, I kind of want my cake and eat it here, because I think that a lot of you guys and myself just want the main thing, okay? And that is me going back to the classics and reviewing classic stories. Boy, oh boy, am I excited to do that. I have an extreme hankering just to shuffle through the archives of classic TV Doctor Who, pull out an episode and make a video on it, because that is what I used to do. And I've got a real sense of it ain't broke so don't fix it. I've got a lot of people in the comments talking about how I want to, you know, how they want me to go back to the classics, and I really want to go back to the classics. Now, the trouble here is that I know what you mean, okay? I know what kind of videos you want me to produce here, and I want to produce those kind of videos as well, and that's a style that isn't this one, okay? I want to do the style where it's scripted voice with B-roll images, so I've written in advance what I'm going to say, so I'm not going every 5 minutes, where I'm not stumbling on my words and where I'm not replacing what I think I'm saying with something that isn't the thing I'm saying, and then watching it back and thinking, why in the hell did you say Spider-Man instead of Cyberman, you idiot? Okay, that is my preferred format, but the trouble is it takes more time, and I'm busy with my full-time job and all the rest, and this is why I did these videos, because I don't want to be a stranger, and I don't want to go back to neglecting my channel for months at a time. I want to be constantly in touch with you guys. I want to have a constant rollout of content. It feels good to be making these weekly videos, so I've made a decision going forward, and I'm going to attempt to have my cake and eat it here, and I'm going to trial this, and I'm going to see how well it works, okay? I'm going to continue to make these videos, such as the one that I have presented today with the review of the Cybermen book. I will be covering expanded media in short, controlled bursts every Sunday. I will be dropping these, and I will be using the time in between to generate reviews, B-roll of classics, and I'm going to just see if I can juggle both things and make this the best of both worlds. So you get me rambling incessantly, such as I am now, but you also get the really good stuff, which is the classics. I can't help thinking that there can't be one without the other, you know, that this channel needs both to really flourish and to really be a decent channel that is worth the time putting in, and is also, most importantly, a valuable experience for you, the viewer. So that is where I'm going to leave it, okay? Who knows if this endeavor is going to work, but that is the course that I am going to commit myself to right now. And I just want to thank you all for giving me the incentive and the encouragement for doing this and going forward in this direction. And with this level of possibility, I do have new era burnout, and I'm sure all of you do, okay? I am really glad that the TD2 era is behind me for now, and I think you are too, and it's really just a question of keeping ourselves enthusiastic as Doctor Who fans, and I think it's all out there, okay? I haven't had anyone saying stop talking about Doctor Who. I've only had people saying go back to the classics, okay? So that gives me the impression that, like myself, a lot of you are still passionate about this product, about this franchise, about the great institution that is Doctor Who. It's just in terms of the modern product, our morale has taken a bit of a hit, but that is not to say that there isn't plenty of stuff that we can discover going forward, and I am here for it. And as it stands, as I record this video, I'm feeling extremely positive, and I get the sense that you're positive about it too. So yeah, and that is it, and that is where I'm going to go going forward, and I hope you can join me next time for my video and for the continuation of The Chosen Chimp throughout 2025 and beyond. I hope you are all doing well. If you want to check me out on social media, visit my Blue Sky at bsky at thechosenchimp.bsky.social. You can also visit me on patreon.com/chosenchimp. For £1 a month, you can become a distinguished follower and hit me up and request some kind of Doctor Who topic for me to talk about. And if you do, I will mention your name in this video without fail. I will also be upkeeping my TikTok channel by doing short form edits of these long form videos, I think. Let's see how that goes. I'm getting quite a nice positive following over on TikTok as well, so I'd like to keep that going. And yes, irons in the fire. It's going well, and I hope it is going well for all of you guys too. Really, I hope it is. Please stay safe. All the best to everybody watching, and for the love of Pete and his world, have a good one.